It's that time again. Monday night. Mary's Monday Musings. Oh, I kind of had a little bit of an epiphany this morning. So I'm excited to be sharing some of my epiphany with you. Hey, Rosemary. So is it raining down there just like it is? Hey, Lily. Just like it was when you were camping. Hi, Christy. Thanks for hopping on. Yeah, so I just have to start out before I get started while we're waiting for people to hop on. It's crazy because I kept seeing this verse. Oh, thank you. Those are my two book covers. Do you recognize them? I kept seeing one of the verses that I'm using tonight on Facebook like all day long. And I mean, after I decided, hey, Christy, what I was going to do. It was just crazy. So I took that as a sign that I must have been on the right track tonight because it was like, and different random people who don't know each other. So they probably didn't even see it, on other people's timelines. So I don't know if it was like, if I missed the announcement or something, that scripture was the one that we were supposed to be sharing today. And they were all in a little bit different context. In fact, my friend Janet, who I watch almost every night on the way home from work, she goes live between 5 and 5:30 East Coast time. So I watch her on my ride home from work, and she used that same scripture. It was just crazy. And the two, it was kind of related to what I'm going to talk about along the same lines. So that was kind of cool. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Mary Moss. If you don't know me, I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm an author, a poet, a speaker. That's my dream life. My 9 to 5, I'm an administrator for a large transportation program that I really love, luckily. My Monday night musings are just that. They're just lessons I've learned, thoughts I've had, revelations I've made about my own life that I'm pretty sure other people can relate to. I know that we're all together in this thing called life, and so I just think anytime we can help each other out, we ought to do that. So I hope you find value in what I want to share tonight. And I know the intro maybe was a little strange. Make decisions against yourself to rewrite your story. It's kind of a crazy concept, isn't it? You don't think about making a decision against yourself. But let me just lead into that a little bit. They say that we're each the author of our own story, right? We write our own story, not our parents, not our partners, not our ex, not the bullies in school when we were growing up, not anybody. We are the ones who get to tell the story of our lives. Yeah, I know. A lot of us do, Christy. And, if you have a bad day and somebody else is having a bad day and they snap at you, my tendency is always to own that instead of just saying they're having a bad day. It's not me. So that's something that I'm really trying to be cognizant of and trying to work hard on. So anyway, we're responsible for telling our own story. And a lot of times it's not just the story that we allow other people to tell about us. It's the story we tell ourselves that can hold us back from becoming the best version of ourselves. And I know for me, I am guilty of a lot of the things that I'm going to share in just a minute. And I have a little exercise. I always try to have a little homework assignment. I made a little grid. You can make your own. You'll be able to do it very easily after I'm done. But if you want a copy of this, just leave a comment and with your email, and I'll shoot it over to you. But the stories that we tell ourselves some of those can hold us back. So over the next 24 hours, this is what I challenge you to do. Every time you say one of these phrases, I want you to make a note of it. And you can either use, my grid, make your own grid. You can use a journal. post-it note, although I probably need a bigger sheet than a post-it note. Anything, any way that you want to just keep track of it. And I think you'll be as surprised as I was. I only did this for half a day, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So let's think about, I'm going to say a couple, and maybe, I know there's a little bit of a delay, but if you all have a favorite, I'd love for you to share it with us. Some of the things that I say is I always, I never, I can't, and it's always followed by because, or, you know, it's a negative context of a reason that I can't, that I am not the best version of myself that I can be. Do you all have a favorite one? There are so many that, you know, it's hard. And a lot of times, maybe you don't even think about it this way as being a negative thing. Even like I'm trying to, one day, or I wish. Those are all negative things that we're telling ourselves. They give us permission to not progress, to not grow, to not proceed with what we need to do in our lives. But yeah, that's a good one. But can follow every one of those statements, can't it? There's always a but. And it's so destructive. There are so many other, hey Jill, so many other absolutes in our lives that, that over and over a lifetime, we've learned to say these things to ourselves, and they're not serving us, they're hurting us. But there's one thing that they do serve, and that is they give us permission to not change, to not do what we wish we could do, to have what we don't have, to do versus try, to, you know, to say, I never means that we won't ever. And so it can really hold us back. And now that I'm done writing my book, I'm actually trying to change gears a little bit, to breathe, and to take some time to get back to reading some of the books that really helped me get my head on straight. And one of them is a book called If by Mark Batterson. He's written a ton. Yeah, really now? Right, exactly. Yeah, I ask God that a lot. Really? Right now? I kind of got some things going on. Yeah, I can relate to that. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with Mark Batterson. I have quite a few friends. In fact, one of my best friends gave me several of his books to read, and I'm hooked. He's great. Oh, Margia, thank you so much for joining from the UK. He talks in the book, If, about a time when one of his mentors, who at that point was an elderly pastor in his 80s, was meeting with a small group of other pastors. And the meeting revolved around his secret to success as a pastor, which really meant how he had become such a good steward of his flock, you know, of his congregation. And he shared with the group that he had done so by making decisions against himself. And it just made me stop and think, what does that really mean? He said that there were so many mistakes and regrettable actions that could have been sidetracked, that could have sidetracked him in his, as he was pursuing his life's passion of being a pastor. But he saved those situations from not turning out well with that simple principle. He made decisions against himself, and I'm going to give you some examples that can be applied. How can we do that? How can we make decisions in our lives against ourselves for our good? So what if we decide that instead of hitting the snooze alarm more than once, 2 or 3 times, some mornings, we actually get up when the alarm goes off and make use of that time, either to stretch and, maybe do some yoga, which is way too much for me. Maybe start my first cup of coffee a little early, read the Bible, read a devotional, journal, just sit in quiet. I'm literally, after being full steam ahead for the past several months and kind of in a mad rush here over the last few weeks on the book, I'm literally having to remind myself to breathe, to stop, to breathe. We all do. Don't feel bad. We all do that. To stop and breathe and just be. And it was really interesting because that snooze alarm thing really hit me, because some mornings it's like I can't. I need time. And did you know that I think they go I think the standard is 9 minutes. So I have an alarm that goes off at 5 and one that goes off at 5:15. So in between there's the reminder alarm like, hey, I went off. So what he said in his in his discussion of this is that we hold ourselves back 9 minutes at a time. Just think about that for a minute. So if you hit the snooze alarm 2 or 3 times, that's 9 minutes, that's 18 minutes. It starts adding up. That's wasted time. And for me, I have so little time in my day that those precious minutes could be used, in such powerful ways. Yeah, every 2 minutes. So just think, if you multiply that, if you hit it 2 or 3 times, that's time you're wasting. The only free time I have in my day, when I'm by myself, when I can be alone, is in the morning. And so if I don't get up when the alarm goes off, or some mornings if I wake up a few minutes before, I've lost a golden opportunity. I've lost that gift of that time that I can't get back. So it's just something to think about. And I'm not beating myself up about it or, criticizing anybody else, because we don't think about it. We get into these habits and then we tell ourselves, well, I need the sleep, so I'm going to hit it again. I I had trouble going to sleep last night. I'm going to sleep, a few more minutes. And we need to also focus on in the bathroom. Yeah, well, hey, I remember those days, and we've got to take it whenever we can get it, right? We need to focus on making sure that we make a point to not waste the valuable time we have. Yeah, Lily, hey, I have several little books on the back of the commode so that I can multitask. Okay, so some other things. Instead of saying I don't have time, and we kind of addressed that a little bit, like we don't do things for our health or well-being. We decide to watch an hour of TV instead of maybe taking a walk around the block or walking the dog or, watching an exercise video or reading the Bible, even just reading a book for pleasure so that we're feeding our minds and our souls, is a way that we're building ourselves up versus watching TV, which, we watch plenty of TV at our house, but I'm starting to remind myself not to watch quite so much and to use that time more wisely. I wish, boy, that's a big one. And I go through stages where I find myself saying that more often than I wish more often than I should. I wish I could have, I could do, I could be what my friend has or does or is. Oh, that's great, Christy. Going to the gym. That's great. We need to look at why are those people the way we want to be? Why do they have the things we don't have? Why are they living the way we aren't living? And I wonder if it's not because they made decisions against themselves, against the stories that we tell ourselves. The story that says, I watch TV every night after dinner to relax. And if we tell ourselves that story often enough, that's our story and that's what we do, and that starts to define who we are. Versus deciding not to do that and using that time more wisely. Hey, Tyler, how are you? So, those are all words on this grid that I talked about. I wish, I always, I don't have time. And instead of saying, this is a big one, I'm on this kick, instead of continually saying, one day I will, we need to start to make a list of little small things we can do so that one day becomes a reality. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. Hey, sweetie, thanks for hopping on. We need to start telling ourselves different stories. And that's not easy to do. Not of our own volition, So the people that are farther along, that run marathons, well, they made the decision to start training for that marathon way ahead of time. While we were sitting down watching TV, they were training for that marathon. Or while we were doing whatever, and I don't want anybody to think I'm bashing TV watching. But there are 1,000 little decisions we make every single day. And they seem harmless, and I think we're so often not aware of them. So that if we become aware of them, then we can start deciding against them, against our natural inclination to keep telling the stories that we've told about ourselves, and even the stories we've told to ourselves. So I don't know if you believe in the law of attraction, which is based on Jesus imploring us to ask, seek, and knock. Which I do. That's the scripture that I kept seeing all day long. Ask, seek, knock. It's crazy. Crazy good. Because I did definitely take that as a sign. Because the law of attraction says that we attract what we think. Thoughts become things. And that's why it's so important to tell ourselves the story of who we want to become. Of who we are as God's creation. We need to start telling the story that He wants us to write, the one that looks like the story He has designed for us. That's how we make decisions against ourselves and for ourselves at the same time. Does that make sense to anybody? Yeah, thanks. I love the pictures. They really keep me grounded. Oh, tell Brooklyn hi. Good, Glenda. I'm glad it makes sense. So what do you all think? Are you going to start keeping track of those little discussions the little stories we tell ourselves, the little ways we describe ourselves to ourselves? Because I think once we're aware of them, that's when we can start changing them. So, and like I said, after half a day, I've got a whole list of things that I need to start retelling myself. Some of them I had forgotten. And like I said, it's as simple as I need to breathe. I need to stop and think and rest in Him so that I can tell the right story to myself. So I'm not going to keep you all too long tonight. I don't want to get lectury because you know that I share from my own life, from my own experiences, my own shortcomings, my own areas that I'm working on because I want it to help other people. I know I'm not alone. Yeah, I know. We all need to. We're not going to say I'm not very good at that anymore. We're going to say, I am going to change my story, and I'm going to figure out what I need to do that. I think this grid will really help because, even if you just start out by coming up with an opposite statement, if we say, I never, say, I want to start doing that now, or better, I will start doing that now. That and practicing getting better each day. And we're not going to change overnight. All we can do is work on it a little bit every day. You know, our coach always taught us 1% changes um, uh, get you more success, because if you try to change everything all at once, you're not going to succeed, and you're going to get frustrated, and then you're going to give up. So those little 1% changes, maybe pick one statement that you find yourself saying over and over again and start, you know, telling a different story about that one. So God has a beautiful story already written for us, and he longs for us to live into that story. So that's why it's so important to stop telling the wrong stories to ourselves so that we can be the way he designed us to be. And I think that's the way that we become truly happy and fulfilled in our lives. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really love it when you all participate. And it lets me know that I'm not just off on a tangent somewhere or making things up as I go along. I hope you all have a great rest of the night and a great week. And if you want this grid, just leave a comment, and I'll or message me your email, and I'll get it over to you. Thanks a lot.